hold on.
I'm zooming.
What? Dude, hold. Shit. Look, that's bigger than me. Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that.
See?
Somebody said that there's a guy on here.
Some Bigfoot encounters don't need a clear face to feel disturbing. In one case, something snapped heavy branches with force far beyond a bear. In another, two massive mastiffs refused to go outside while glowing eyes watched from 7 feet high. So, what is really hiding in these forests? A committed Bigfoot investigator from the Squatch Mafia channel went alone into North Carolina's backcountry to look into strange activity. The uneasy incident starts when the investigator picks up huge chaotic noises nearby, comparing them to violent primates thrashing above him. Whatever remains out of sight quickly shows frightening force, tearing away heavy branches with aggression.
I hope you can hear this. It sounds like gorillas fighting in the tree. They're breaking limbs bigger around than me. I've never seen anything like it in my life. This is the second time I've come over here. And the first time when I got up under them trying to figure out what it was, they started breaking limbs off and throwing them at me. And I still cannot figure out what it is. Look, they're ruining this freaking place. What in God's name is it? It's bigger than me, whatever it is. Because it's breaking limbs off that it would take me 2 minutes to saw.
Including limbs he says were wider than his body. The danger rises fast because the same creature had reportedly thrown things toward the cameraman before. And this time the display reaches its peak when half of a living, healthy tree is ripped loose. The investigator estimates the tree at about 8 to 12 inches across, suggesting power far beyond normal wildlife in the area.
Look, see, he's coming right above me right here. He's fixing to throw something at me, whatever it is. Yeah, they don't like you messing with them. Look. What in God's name is going on? Look, that's bigger than me. Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. What in Jesus' name just is doing this? Oh my God, he just took half the tree down. Something, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, it's gotta be I don't even think a bear would have a chance in Hades and it doing this. It's something stronger than a bear. And he is pissed. Yeah, that's a healthy tree. About 8 to 10, maybe even 12 inches in diameter that he just broke because he's pissed because I'm getting close to him. I think I'm gonna bounce because I think he just hit the ground, which means he's about to face me on foot. And I don't really want to wrestle with somebody that can tear trees down just because they're mad. My God, look at the tree he just freaking broke in half.
After witnessing the violent damage, the investigator decides the hostile presence has to be more powerful than a bear. And since it appears disturbed by him being there, chooses to back away before the situation turns physical. The recording raises a hard question: is this clear evidence of a Sasquatch protecting its ground with dangerous force? Or is there a reasonable explanation for the noise and destruction of a tree that large share your thoughts below. A crew from the Bigfoot Society channel was recording far inside the isolated forests of Prince Edward Island, Canada, hoping to find signs of the legendary Sasquatch. In this unusual footage, a huge shadowy figure suddenly shows up and disappears between the trees within a single instant.
You ready? Okay. Yeah. All right. Damn it. All right, go. What the? Dude, holy shit. Did you see that?
The clip has triggered intense debate throughout the paranormal community, with viewers questioning whether it is authentic rare evidence or a carefully staged fake. This next clip is from a man who does not describe himself as a Bigfoot hunter or any kind of Sasquatch investigator. Still, he was clearly shaken one night after his two 200-pound English Mastiffs hurried to the cabin's patio door, desperate to get back inside. Trying to understand what could scare dogs that large, he picked up a flashlight and pointed it toward the tree line. That was when he saw what looked like two eyes sitting about 7 to 8 feet off the ground, watching him from the darkness. He continued searching the hillside again and again, catching sight of those forward-facing eyes fixed on him before moving slightly, almost like the head had turned. Even the dogs would not go back outside, obviously uneasy about whatever remained in the woods. The man kept sweeping the slope, attempting to follow the bright eyes as they appeared, disappeared, and slipped through the dark gaps. As someone who had once questioned why people in supposed Bigfoot footage never charged toward the creature, he suddenly understood why walking into Blackwoods toward something unknown was not realistic, especially when his normally brave Mastiffs wanted no part of it. There is no solid evidence that the figure was a Bigfoot, and the uploader never says that it was. But he explains that the place where the eyes appeared was roughly 7 to 8 feet high, with no branches, rocks, or structures nearby that could lift an animal up. Whatever stood out there was tall, and somehow it scared two huge protective Mastiffs. That detail alone makes the encounter very deeply disturbing. A group of serious Bigfoot investigators called Squatch Mafia set up trail cameras far inside the Appalachian Mountains, an area often rumored to conceal large ape-like creatures. The group later retrieved footage from late 2023 that showed a short, dark, two-legged figure rushing across the camera's view. At the same moment, the audio recorded odd, high-pitched calls that did not seem to match familiar wildlife.
Đó. Đó. Đó.
from the region. The rare pairing of a small upright shape and strange cries has led some to believe the clip may show a young Bigfoot. Skeptics say it could simply be a misidentified bear cub, but the encounter is now being pointed to as possible evidence that Sasquatch may be reproducing somewhere in America's wild forests. In 1974, a researcher near Mount St. Helens found something strange preserved in the snow, a huge footprint unlike any track he had seen before. The cast reveals an enormous print much larger than a human foot, with deep markings and a consistent shape that quickly triggered debate. The image of the cast beside a real foot makes the size difference clear. Some see it as strong evidence of Sasquatch activity in the area, while others believe it was a carefully made hoax. Decades later, this footprint mystery continues to feed one of America's best-known cryptid legends. During a Northern California expedition, filmmaker Roger Patterson said he recorded proof of a strange creature moving through the remote wilderness. This image shows Patterson holding up a plaster cast of a huge footprint he claimed came from an abominable snow lady, while another large cast sits on the table. Some think these casts show Patterson really encountered something unknown, while others believe it was simply part of a staged hoax. What do you think, real discovery or another famous Bigfoot mystery? A short, but surprisingly sharp video posted on October 13, 2025 shows tourists during an Amazon jungle tour filming a dark, upright shape moving through thick vegetation.
Oh my God, do you see that? Wait, hold on.
I'm zooming. It's huge.
Keep the camera on it. Oh, it's moving. It's going deeper.
I got it.
Its stance, size, and walking motion quickly drew their focus, leading to stunned reactions as they tried to zoom closer while their vehicle continued past. Although the footage lasts only a moment, it has started debate because the Amazon has a long record of alleged humanoid encounters, from indigenous stories, such as the Mapinguari, to newer reports from guides and explorers. With huge isolated areas of rainforest still mostly unexplored, the region remains a center for tales of unidentified creatures. Whether this clip shows a mistaken animal, an optical illusion, or something science has not yet classified remains unclear. What do you think these tourists saw deep inside the Amazon? In the peaceful town of Bourgneuf, France, an old story has reappeared, a frozen, hair-covered, human-like figure reportedly displayed at a countryside fair during the 1990s. Photos from that period show a realistic body trapped in ice, leading to comparisons with the Minnesota Iceman, and raising questions about whether it was a staged fake or something more unusual. The pictures have resurfaced as AI creators started animating famous cryptid images, turning still photographs into believable motion and bringing fresh attention to the case. Was the Yeti of Bourgneuf artwork, taxidermy, or something no one can explain? And what do you think about AI reviving old legends? This video explores a creative test from a content creator who used today's AI tools to animate several famous Bigfoot photos. The original pictures were captured in different places across different years, and the software only turns them into brief animated versions of what the people behind the cameras may have witnessed. What do you think of this AI reconstruction? Is technology making these strange moments easier to understand, or creating new questions about how we judge unusual sightings? Share your opinion in the comments below. One of the world's most trusted naturalists focused on the mystery of the yeti, a creature said for generations to live in the Himalayan mountains. He examined whether prehistoric animals such as Gigantopithecus could have helped create the legend, with stories of huge ape-like beings passed down through the region. The Naturalist showed two pieces of evidence suggesting that something in these mountains may still be unexplained.
There is a real possibility that there might be something in the abominable snowman mystery. There is a famous photograph of a footprint, a very big footprint, in the snow that was taken, I think, at 18,000 feet or something in the Himalayas on a snowfield in the 30s by a famous mountaineer called Eric Shipton. People are suggesting that maybe it was a folk. But nonetheless, there was a trail of these prints which went right across the snowfield and disappeared onto rocks on the other side. And I don't think you make all those jokes at 18,000 feet. But perhaps even more intriguing and certainly more reliable is that in the 30s there was a German called von Königswald. And he went into a Chinese chemist, apothecary's shop. And there are all sorts of traditional medicines kept in those shops. And among them were some fossil teeth, or subfossil teeth. And amongst those were huge molars, about that size, about 4 or 5 times the size of our molars. I mean, it had to be the molar of a giant ape. And he got about 4 or 5 of them. But the search then went on for a number of years, and eventually they found a bit of a jaw, just this lower part here, which had these teeth in, of a giant ape that would stand, if it was blown up in proportion, something like 10 feet to 12 feet tall. Immense,
Yeah.
you know? So one did exist. I mean, if people here, I dare say, have walked in the Himalayas. If you have, you know that the distances are immense. And you know, too, that an animal that lives there will be well aware of your presence before you know where it is, and that it may keep out of the way. So there are persistent legends up amongst the Sherpas, like in the high mountains in the Himalayas. And I just have a suspicion there certainly was one, a giant ape there, and I think it's not impossible that one will survive.
So the yeti could be hiding out somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether a descendant of that ancient ape still moves through those peaks is a question that has never been completely settled, and it continues to interest scientists and explorers. A creature that large in terrain, that vast, staying away from people for centuries, is not as impossible as it may sound. Do you think something still exists in those mountains, or did it vanish long before humans began searching? 2 friends were moving through a swampy area when they spotted a dark figure watching them from the tree line. They began filming. The shape shifted in and out from behind a large tree, showing itself briefly, then slipping back into heavy brush. It did this several times. Whatever it was, it remained concealed and kept staring. The 2 never saw it clearly. They left the area confused and uneasy, with no explanation for what had been silently observing them from the swamp. Something that hides but keeps watching does not act like most animals. What do you think was out there in those trees? A Tennessee homeowner placed a camera outside to capture noises coming from the woods behind his land. He had spent time backpacking through the Appalachians and already knew about reports of strange sounds in that area. What he recorded that night was unlike anything he had heard before. The audio captured knocks from the tree-lined coyotes and what seemed like a raccoon in distress. At around 28 seconds, the knocking grew stronger. Then, at 1:14, a low growl came through something he could not easily identify. In person, the knocks had sounded like chains striking trees or wood breaking, but with a strangely living quality his phone could not fully record. About a month before, he had seen red orbs near the same tree line. Still, he made no definite claims about any of it. Whatever was outside that night disturbed him enough to post the footage. Some sounds recorded near rural tree lines do not match any familiar animal, and when knocking, growling, and strange lights appear in one place, it is difficult to dismiss so easily. What do you think made that sound at 1:14? M.K. Davis is a veteran Bigfoot researcher recognized for studying audio and video material from isolated wilderness locations. In this video, he replays several vocal sounds recorded during one of those outing sounds he believes may not line up with any known animal.
Now let's listen to the audio portion, greatly amplified, so that we could listen and hear some of the fainter words or expressions.
The audio contained strange tones and patterns that he struggled to connect to ordinary wildlife. He boosted parts of the recording to make quieter details easier to hear and explained what he noticed. He avoided making final claims. Instead, he offered the footage and audio as something worth reviewing, leaving the meaning open. Some of the recorded behaviors backing into light handling objects, possibly noticing infrared, do not match normal wildlife patterns. What do you think was captured in that footage? A group of explorers went into the woods at night carrying only cameras and lights. At one point during the walk, one member stopped and aimed his light down at the ground. What he discovered made the group stop immediately.
Somebody said that there's a guy on here saying they ain't seen prints yet.
Pressed into the soft dirt was a large footprint, bigger than any human foot in the group. When they looked closer, they found two prints beside each other, along with what looked like a large handprint nearby. The placement suggested something huge had crouched down in that exact area.
What? I mean,
Can you put your foot beside of it?
oh my God.
It's definitely bigger than our foot wide.
One member put his own foot next to the print for scale. It was obviously wider and longer. The group checked the surrounding area but found no answer for what had left the marks or how recently they had been made. Whatever had stood there was gone before they arrived. Large footprints with a nearby handprint in that position are difficult to explain as a hoax or mistake. What do you think was crouching in those woods that night? A man was walking alone through the woods when he found something he did not expect. His video was later posted online, where it attracted major attention and debate. At one point along the trail, he noticed a large figure among the trees. The creature was enormous, covered in thick, tangled fur, and had a long, dog-like muzzle. He saw it only briefly before stepping back. Some viewers suggested known animals, while others considered something more difficult to explain. A large, fur-covered figure with a dog-like muzzle does not match any familiar wildlife description. What do you think he encountered out there? Two friends were in the woods in Washington state when they heard something that stopped them instantly. Their video was posted online and soon drew attention from viewers who knew similar reports from the Pacific Northwest.
Hell, like that. What the hell would that be? Wow.
Suddenly, a loud, harsh scream came from the tree line. It carried through the forest and did not disappear right away. The two paused and listened. What stood out most was the sheer volume. They believed it was far beyond what any ordinary local animal could make, and that whatever produced it would need an unusually large lung capacity. nothing showed itself. A scream that powerful with no visible source and no match to local wildlife is hard to dismiss. What do you think was in those trees? On April 9th, 2026, a man aboard a large boat noticed something strange in the nearby trees. He zoomed in and started filming. He later labeled the video as a Bigfoot sighting in southern Ontario. When the footage is stopped, a tall, narrow silhouette can be seen standing completely motionless among the trees. It barely shifts, seeming to keep its place as if trying to stay hidden and blend into the background. The figure also appears much lighter in color than most reported sightings. Bigfoot reports from Ontario, where the creature is more often called Sasquatch, usually follow a familiar pattern. Witnesses often describe something 7 to 10 feet tall with wide shoulders, a heavy frame, and long arms hanging lower than a human's, sometimes reaching near the knees. Most reports mention dark brown or black hair, though some include reddish or gray coloring, similar to what appears in this footage. A motionless figure, lighter color and video filmed from a boat. With no way to investigate further, this one leaves plenty of room for interpretation. What do you think was standing in those trees? A group of hikers found an unusual structure deep inside a remote forest. It looked intentionally built from branches and logs. Around it were signs of recent activity, including what the hikers described as a fresh kill near the entrance. The discovery immediately raised questions. Structures like this have been mentioned before in connection with Bigfoot reports, usually in isolated wilderness areas, far from roads or trails. Others suggested a more ordinary human explanation, hunting activity, or some type of ritual use. Something constructed that far from civilization with fresh remains close by, whatever made it had not been gone long. What do you think put that structure together? A photographer near Mount St. Helens said he came across a massive creature resting in clear view at an abandoned logging site and claimed he managed to photograph it. What made the sighting unusual was the behavior. Unlike most reports where the subject is moving or running away, this one seemed completely calm. Some researchers who studied the image suggested it could show a female. Reactions were divided. Some viewed it as strong evidence. Others said one photo can never prove enough. What happened after the encounter was never explained. A resting figure photographed in the open with no follow-up, that silence matters too. What do you think was sitting at that logging site? A family driving through a thick forest looking for wildlife had not seen much when one of them spotted movement among the trees ahead. The others looked over and saw it as well. A large, dark shape moved quietly through the undergrowth. Its size and posture matched details often linked to Bigfoot reports. The family also noticed there were no other animals nearby. Something that large moving, silently with nothing else around. What do you think they saw out there? A hiker exploring a forest suddenly heard the heavy footsteps coming from nearby trees. He pulled out his camera and began filming. In the distance, a tall, dark figure walked casually through the forest on two legs. The footage captured the movement clearly enough to rule out ordinary wildlife, but the overall quality made it hard to reach any firm conclusion. Blurry footage, heavy footsteps, and a figure that did not move like anything familiar, close enough to raise questions but not close enough to answer them. What do you think he was seeing? A man named Jared was searching for a fishing spot along Union Creek in the Rogue River, Siskiyou National Forest, when he spotted movement among the trees. He took out his camera and managed to capture a photo. According to Jared, what he saw was a large, upright creature standing roughly 8 feet tall as it moved through the thick forest. The location gives the sighting more context. The Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest extends across the mountains of southwestern Oregon near the California border. The land is steep, the river valleys are deep, and much of the wilderness remains hard to reach. Reports from this area date back decades. Hikers, hunters, and campers have described strange footprints, nighttime sounds, and quick sightings of tall, hair-covered figures moving through the trees. Jared's account matches a pattern that has grown in that region for years. A place with that kind of history, an 8-foot figure, and a photo taken in the moment, the setting alone makes this harder to dismiss. What do you think Jared actually saw moving through those trees? An Instagram user posted a photo said to have been taken in Russia, showing something strange near a highway outside Moscow. According to the account, the picture was captured shortly after a large creature crossed the road, an event that allegedly led to a traffic accident. In the image, a brown-haired figure can be seen among the trees. In Russian folklore, something matching this description is often called the almaz, a primitive human-like being with sparse hair and darker weathered skin. Some viewers thought the image might support that legend. Others believed a misidentified animal was the more likely explanation. To many who commented, a person crossing a highway in that situation seemed like the least believable option. A traffic accident, a figure in the trees, and a legend matching the description. What do you think was crossing that road? During a fishing outing in Huber Heights, Ohio, a man spotted movement far away and started filming.
It's a Bigfoot. What the fuck was he picking up? Hey, we really might be catching a Bigfoot on video. What the?
A human-like figure seemed to be walking through the forest. The man later pointed out that no trail led into that area, raising the question of who or what could have been there. Some viewers suggested it might be a juvenile Bigfoot, smaller than the massive figures usually described in reports. Others thought a person or animal warped by distance and camera angle was the simpler explanation. Ohio has built up a notable number of sightings over the years, making it a place that appears often in these discussions. A figure with no trail nearby, possible juvenile size, and a location with a long record of reports, every small detail adds another strange layer. What do you think was really moving through those trees? A woman named Stephanie shared photos on her TikTok account after seeing something strange in the snow at her parents' house in southern Ohio. She had followed a line of footprints across the ground. The distance between each step was hard to overlook. The strides were estimated at 7 to 8 feet apart, far beyond what a person could make with a normal walk. The prints themselves looked human-like, with visible toe marks. Each one was estimated to be between 18 and 23 inches long. Bear tracks were considered but ruled out. The shape did not match. These looked like feet, only extremely large ones. The stride length alone makes this difficult to explain with anything familiar. What do you think was walking through that snow? A man driving down a remote wooded road noticed something that made him stop. At first, he assumed it was a bear, but as he got closer, it did not resemble anything familiar. He took a photo and continued driving. The figure vanished into the forest. He wondered if someone was trying to scare passing drivers, but something about it felt wrong. Not a bear, not exactly human. What do you think he photographed that day? That's it for tonight. Which moment creep? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story. Share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.